The Cowlitz Podcast Network, sponsored by the Cowlitz PUD and Columbia Wellness. Online at cowlitzpodcast.com and wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome to the first episode of C2FR Fire and Rescue Podcast. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Good morning, Brian.
So, the reason we're here is we've got an important thing coming up with the public, and I want to kind of dig into what that is and how that affects the department and the public and et cetera. So, Jason, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself real quick?
Yeah, good morning, Brian. Thanks. My name is Jason Sanders, Deputy Chief of Operations. Been in this role for a couple of years now and started the district in 1996, 26 years ago.
Copy. Thank you. And Chief Neves.
I'm Scott Neves. I've been in this role as a fire chief for coming up on 2 years. Been with the district for over 30 years in various roles.
Copy. Thank you. And my name is Bryan Ditterick. I'm a lieutenant with C2FR Fire and Rescue, and I'm going on year 16, 14 career. Everybody, you might hear some rigs coming in and out. We are open 24/7, 365. So those are vehicles, apparatus going to serve you and backing back into the bay. So first question, what is, and either one of you can take turns on the questions, but this is just to clarify once again what's coming up in November and what we're trying to accomplish here. So what is a lid lift levy? What are we doing here? That's kind of confusing to the public. What is that?
Yeah, so a lid lift levy it changes the collection rate that we currently have for the taxing structure on how we get money from the public. Right now we're at 97 cents per thousand. We're asking to go to $1.35. The main issue is that we have, by state law, a limitation of 1% annual increase. And due to the inflationary gap, we're at 24% over the last 5 years. So what we've had is there's this huge gap between 5%, the 1% increase in our annual budget, and what the inflation impacts are to us. So that's really critically degrading our ability to buy supplies, fuel, those impacts into our budget. So what this does is we have to go back to the voters to ask to have an increase in the dollars that we collect, and that's what the lid lift is.
Got it. So we are limited by how much money we collect from tax assessed value from houses and property in the area. By state law, we can only get 1% of the revenue from last year.
Correct, unless we go back to the voters and ask for an increase. Is basically you're going to your boss and asking for a raise.
Okay, that's a good way to kind of think about it. When was the last time we did this? Have we ever done this?
We went to the voters in 2014 and asked for a lid lift.
I think it passed, yeah?
It did pass.
It did pass. So thank you, public, for it passing last time, and we're coming one more time. We don't do this often, and we only do it when it's necessary.
That's correct. We strive very hard to stay within the budget as it's set, and we've done a great job at doing that. The unfortunate part is, everything costs more now, and we need to be able to have that to continue to function.
It does, and I think, I've had private conversations with coworkers and leadership here, and we're all feeling the pinch, and we don't want to do this, but we have to. From what I understand, next year is the operating budget will be changing if this doesn't pass 2024. Is that correct? So next year is kind of status quo, and then 24 will be when we'll feel the extra pinch. Is that right? Or?
Yeah, we have some staffing that we've done a great job at trying to divert costs. And one of those things is we were able to get staffing on federal grant. That federal grant ends at the end of next year, and then we're going to have to bear those costs, about $300,000+ an impact into our budget. And that's one of the critical pieces about staffing that we really need to work hard on to be able to maintain that.
Great. Chief Sanders, anything to add on what Chief Neves?
No, yes. I think some people think that, the economy, there was housing market, there was this influx of increased assessed values and things, and that we should feel, that
A flood of money coming in.
that should we should see some benefit, but it actually is the opposite. As assessed values go up, that drives our collection rate down. But if there's a recession of some sort and values go down, then we would see the opposite of that, and our assessed and collection rate would go up. So I want to make sure that people understand that's part of this problem too, and part of the piece, and why we're here.
Yeah, and it's not just Kalamazoo Fire and Rescue. It's across the state of Washington. That law applies to, I think it's law enforcement as well. So a lot of departments are kind of feeling that pinch, especially when they have diverse ways that they get their revenue for the budget. So, okay, good. Question 2 that I have here is, what is the money if passed, if the voters vote yes, which is a majority decision, which means 60 plus 1, I believe, right?
Yeah, it's a majority.
Yep. If passed, what would the extra funding or the maintaining the funding? What would we use that money for?
Yeah, so we've done some internal, as we've projected the potential of this passing and what that would do for our budget. Three main things that we want to do, and that's to maintain staffing.
Okay.
It's critical for us to have the folks on our rigs going out and running the calls and providing the service to our community. The other thing is to enhance our training program. A lot of times, unfortunately, when you look at budget cuts, a lot of times in order to keep people, you start to cut, some training, but training is valuable to us, and it's important for us to stay on top of our tactics and what's new out there from running calls. So we would enhance our training and then improve infrastructure. So identifying projects and ongoing projects for our stations, apparatus, the capital type improvements that we are always faced with in maintaining a fire department that serves 150 square miles and through various stations and within Cowlitz County. So that is the goal with the lid lift and what the money would be going towards.
Okay, makes sense. And then what happens? This is kind of a real question, right? What happens if the lid lift doesn't pass? What do we do? Are we shutting down stations? Or are we selling off apparatus? What are we doing?
Yeah, so this is really a critical need for the organization. So if we don't pass, we would sit down and reassess why we didn't pass, what were the issues, and we will take this, because of the critical nature of this, we will take this back to the voters again next year and try to make sure that we message it right, or figure out, what the public didn't understand or what the public is not supporting in this. For us is, staffing is critical. There will be impacts to operations. I can't say what those are at this point because it'll depend on, as we move forward and those pieces. What it really does for us, especially in, like the training, it's critical for us that the training sets our fire protection rating. Is one of the key components with that, and that directly affects your insurance ratings. The insurance companies use those, and we have been one of the lowest in Southwest Washington for the last several years. We work hard to maintain that, and that directly affects our public and insurance ratings. So, there will have to be cuts into all program throughout the department. One of the key pieces that Chief Sanders talked about is the replacement of equipment. Currently we have equipment that's well outside of its replacement cycle, engines that are 13 years past their replacement cycle, ambulances that are 11 years past their replacement cycle. What it would mean is that equipment would continue to stay on the road, which, puts our folks, our citizens at a higher risk and our people at a higher risk. And those are kind of the impacts of the operation. Our key piece, we're a service organization, so it's critical that we have the right people at the right place at the right time. And, right now in the job market, it's hard to find people, keep good people, and incentivize that. And we struggle with that currently. So that's kind of why, I can't give you a very clear picture, because it's kind of looking into my crystal ball of, do we lose and more staff to other organizations? Do they leave because of higher pay or, better equipment, those type of things. So there will be impacts. I just can't tell you what those are at this point.
Got it. Okay. So it's beneficial to the public, it's beneficial to the organization, it's beneficial to the employees that we get this passed. If it doesn't pass, it's the world's not going to end, but it's not going to be as beneficial to all those parties, moving forward. So how long does it? So let's say the lid lift. The voters say, "Yeah, we want you to have what you need, and we approve to lift this 1% per the state law. We give you the go." How long does this last for? How long is the public going to be paying for the lid?
So it's kind of not clear. It's called a permanent lid lift, but it's really not permanent. What it does is it resets the collection rate to $1.35, and it maintains at that percentage. But as Chief Sanders talked to earlier, as property values go up, that actually lowers the rate. We're currently at 97 cents per thousand. We started a lot higher than that, but over the years, because of the 1% limitation, that locks us into a lower rate. So it lasts really for 5 years, and that's the impact. Is after 5 years, it resets and goes back to the 1% limitations by law. We've asked specifically in this one for a 5% escalator, so we don't have to go back to the voters as fast as possible. So if we do see inflationary spikes, that we can adjust that by up to 5% to be able to keep us where we need to be.
So potentially, and I think other departments have done this before too. Like we've done it before in 2014. It comes up, especially for fire districts, so they're a little different than city departments. So we get creative with grant funding and some other things too. But we do need that tax base, and we're limited, as we explained. But we do need to occasionally go back to the public. I know down south in Vancouver, they just had to pass one or tried to pass one, and a couple of departments down there. They don't always pass and they don't always fail. It just kind of depends on what the market is and what the public's view of that department is. And since I've been here, in my eyes, since it did pass last time, the public sees us in a positive light. We get a lot of good comments. We get a lot of good things, as most departments do, in our field. Anything to add, Jason?
Yeah, I do. And just to be clear, we're asking you to go $1.35. By law, our cap is $1.50, and that's true for all around the state as far as districts and their cap for collection. So $1.50 per thousand of your assessed value. We're only asking to go to $1.35, and also to be clear, we have a board of commissioners, 5 of them, that represent the voters who, drive policy and decision and budgetary things for the district. So, those 5 that support the district also are out there in the community, hearing the comments, hearing the things from the voters. And so they're representing you in coming and providing opportunity and budgetary direction to sustain the department. So just to be clear, it's not Cowlitz 2 Fire and Rescue and Chief Neves saying we need to do this. There's a board of commissioners that are on board as well, supporting and representing the voters. So
no, that's an excellent point. And the board of commissioners are elected officials. So, they're voted in by the public because they're well liked, and a lot of our commissioners have been there for some time. So that's a good track record. In fact, Chief Neves was one of our commissioners for quite some time, and then he was offered the position when Chief Lefebvre left, and now he's serving as the fire chief. So we got some good lineage, we've got some good history with some leadership and kind of passing the torch on. But that's an excellent point. Yeah, elected officials are making these decisions, and they know what's best, or can kind of predict what we need to do moving forward to make sure that we're sustaining the services we provide.
Yeah, and that's it. And that's a key point, is that this has been looked at in depth. We've had Citizens Committee come in and take a look at it, help us make decisions on at what point we should be and if we should go back to the voters. We've had deep dives into the budget to see, how we can improve that. And we're unique in the fact that we only drive about 60% of our income out of taxes. That we have been, not like most departments. Most departments drive over 90% of their budget out of taxes. We've done contract work, we've done, grant work, we do all sorts of other things. So it's not such a heavy lift to our citizens, and we get excellent service provided to them. So, we've done great work. We continue to do great work and not impacting the public on the costs. Most agencies, as soon as one lid lift expires, they're right back in front of the voters and doing that again. We haven't done that because we've been very conscious of what the impact is to our citizens and trying to stretch that dollar as far as we possibly can. And that's really the great part of CALETS too, and you mentioned earlier about levies passing in Southwest Washington. We had, all of the levies so far this year have passed, and I think the public really understands the impact of emergency services and how critical that service is to them, and how that impact, could be felt by them if, we don't have the right people at the right place at the right time to make those critical life-saving decisions.
Well, a good example of that too, kind of in a different field, but similar public service, is, you're looking at, Portland Bureau of Police. They're, had some big cuts because of different reasons. And now, and actually in Clark County down in Southwest Washington, their, deputies they're fewer and far between. So your emergencies are kind of more prioritized, and unfortunately for the public, they're kind of feeling that pinch. So something to keep in mind. Again, different field, but you call 911 and you want someone to show up as soon as possible because your emergency is the most important at the time, and we all get that. But if you don't have the resources, then you might be in line.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, what else we got here? So a lot of this, some people, if you're still listening, thank you. I know that means you're very interested, and we're trying to answer the questions that you have. Some of it's a little, if you don't, some people are more visual, but let's just kind of break it down this way. So I'm a homeowner here, and what's this going to cost me? How much is this going to cost?
Yeah, so it's based on your assessed value, so of your property and house. So let's say, for instance, you're a homeowner that has an assessed value of $300,000, house property. That would be an additional $9.50 per month, or $114 per year, based on that request of going to the $1.35 per thousand. And so this would not take into effect until next year, as far as the taxes collected. And so that's the overall cost to a homeowner.
Okay, so that's kind of I think when you throw out too many examples, it kind of throws things off. But to figure that number out, you would take whatever your tax assessed value times that by 1.35, and then that would give you your number. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, that's based on per thousand.
Yep.
Yeah, so you have to divide it out by 1,000 first.
Yep.
So, and that's really critical, for us is, we understand that, there are people on fixed incomes that, everybody's getting hit hard by this, inflationary spike and the times that we're going through right now. This was not an easy decision for us to make, but, we also truly understand that when you call 911, you want the best equipment, best trained people sitting at your doorstep the fastest we can get them there. And that's what we're trying to do.
Do I get to write that off on my taxes? I'm throwing you a curveball. So none of us are tax agents here, so you would want to consult your tax agent.
Right. So. And if you fall into some of the exempt status, you can actually apply for being exempt from all the property taxes. So I don't know what the total realm of that is, and that would be a question to ask the county who handles the property taxes. But I know that there are several exemptions that you can apply for and get and not pay property taxes.
There you go. So is this just for homeowners or is this for commercial buildings too?
It's for all structures and land in our district.
Copy. Okay. Here's something. I'm trying to take it from the public's point of view here. Didn't you guys? No, I'm not with the department anymore. Didn't you guys just build 2 new stations not that long ago? You need more money? What's going on?
Yes, we did. And that was one of those projects that we went to the voters for and ran a bond. And at that time, the voters supported us in that effort. That bond was specific to stations, infrastructure, apparatus. We stretched that bond to the max with the 2 stations that were built. And just to be clear, I mean, out west, that station, the quarters was a mobile home. I mean, it updated that area to where, it's a fantastic station. Same thing with Station 2.5 in Lexington. With that at that time was, kind of breaking apart and stuff. So yes, we were supported by a bond. Now, again, that was specific to stations, apparatus, capital type improvements. Couldn't spend it on staffing, couldn't spend it on training. It was specific to those projects. So again, as I said earlier, this would be an influx of budgetary dollars towards the staffing component, towards the training component, and again, updating, as Chief said, some apparatus needs that we have.
Yeah, and with that bond also included a new fire engine. Is that correct?
We did purchase a fire engine, a ladder truck, a bunch of state-of-the-art new equipment for medical purposes. And like I said, we stretched that bond as far as we could. New air packs. I mean, it was a huge benefit to the district, to the community. With the opportunities that bond provided us.
2 things that may or may not have come from the bond, so correct me if I'm wrong, but the electric gurneys that we have now, is that from the bond?
It is.
So I'll get to that in a second. And then also the Lucas device, is that also from that? So 2 things from boots on the ground, which is me. Now I got my fire hat on.
And those when you say electric gurneys, you're talking about the lifts.
Yes.
Yes.
So those 2 things for the public, if you don't know, those are kind of what we're talking about, the equipment. So 2 things. The electric gurneys. So when we get the gurney and we put the patient on, before we would lift it up and you'd have 2 or 3 people kind of grunt and groan and get the person up and then grab the cage underneath. And it caused some back injuries and it caused some back strains and some back stress. The new electric ones are way more safer for the firefighters. Because think about this, it's a ripple effect. You get one firefighter with a back injury, then they're out for a few weeks or however long that takes, and then the public doesn't get that extra firefighter. Not only just with responding to calls, we backfill for that, but they're also not sharing that experience if they're an experienced person to share with the younger firefighter. So there's kind of a ripple effect, and also the Lucas device. What that is. We still are all trained in CPR, and we have ALS capabilities. We have paramedics on almost all of our rigs all the time, right? Well, the Lucas device is basically a machine that if your loved one's having a cardiac event, a heart attack, we can do manual CPR, which is effective to an extent, but everybody gets fatigued, and surprisingly, you can go, I think, 2 or 4 minutes before you are not doing effective CPR. On all of our ambulances now, we have what's called the Lucas device. You put it on the patient, you hit a button, and it does extremely effective CPR for a long time until we get to the hospital and get them to a physician. So that's going to give your loved one the best chance that they got. So that came from a bond that you guys voted for. So thank you. And that helps across the board. It also helps with fatigue on the firefighters, but most importantly, it helps with the best patient care, because guess what? The machine does not get tired.
Right. And, really, when you're talking about public safety and firefighter safety, one of the biggest injuries that we suffer is musculoskeletal injuries. And that's, probably one of our bigger time loss. So, that directly affects the health and the longevity of our firefighters, and also directly affects every injury that we have that takes somebody out of service. And we're paying overtime to backfill that. We're paying L&I on top of that claim. So really, we strive very hard to keep our firefighters healthy and safe so we don't suffer those type of injuries. And some of those can actually be career-ending injuries, and that's absolutely what we don't want to see.
Absolutely. Okay, cool. So we kind of covered that. And then, the last question I have on here is, how does this benefit the public? And I think it's pretty clear. We're getting, maintaining staffing, we're improving the infrastructure, and then we're, kind of building on our training. I know that we like to do training and then bring people in and bring other organizations in and teach our guys and gals. And hopefully that's kind of what we're going to be doing with this. Anything else to add from either of you?
It's just, back to the point about the bond. We greatly appreciate the public in the bond that replaced 2 of the stations. However, that was 2 out of our 5 stations. The other 3, continually need work. The equipment that we bought needs maintenance. Everything has a lifespan with it. And that's kind of the issues that we run into with the difference between the bond and the lid lift. The bond helps us buy those things initially, but the lid lift is what helps keep the maintenance and those things in place.
Yeah, and I just want to make sure that the listeners, you might be asking yourself, am I impacted by this? The only way you're going to know that is if you go to and figure out your tax statement, and if you pay taxes to Cowlitz to Fire and Rescue. If you live in our jurisdiction, then that's who we're speaking to. If you live in Castle Rock, if you live in Kalama, if you live within the city limits of Longview, that you're not impacted by this. And so, come this election, November, those that live in our jurisdiction, and if you have questions, look at your tax statement, call Cowlitz 2 Fire and Rescue to confirm. We're here to help and educate as this unfolds.
We do have the website at c2fr.org/lidlift2022. You get the phone number, call the station. We've got people here every single day that can answer questions for you. If you have a group that you want us to come out and talk to, we're more than willing to do that. We have social media up to answer those questions, and we respond immediately to those questions. So anything that you want clarification on, we're here for you.
Absolutely. What's that phone number again they can call?
Area code 360-578-5218.
Perfect. So I got 2 more sections that are completely separate from the lid lift, but thank you for answering those questions. And folks, if you have more questions, then go to those resources, and we're always happy to take a phone call from you. Congratulations to our new hires, Christian Martinez Lavera, Nicole Hurd, Garrett Johnson, and Jordan Vasquez Hunt. They are great assets. Some of our younger folks, all of them are EMTs, but we're always looking to hire more folks and paramedics, EMTs. If you have no experience at all, that's okay. We also have a robust volunteer program and an intern program. They're both great. They can get you a foot in the door and get you some experience and see if this is right for you. Also, if you are a grown-up, if you will, and you have some high school kids and you're not aware, we do have a high school program that teaches. It's been around for a long time, actually. I think, Chief Sanders, you were part of that program. No.
I was not. I graduated in 93, and it started just shortly after I graduated. So,
gotcha. Anyway, there is, check out, have your child ask about the program, and it's a good way, even if you don't get in the fire service, to learn some discipline and some kind of an insight of what we do to an extent. So congratulations to those folks. And one more thing, if you want to burn something, here's a great resource. Southwest Clean Air Agency. Punch that into your Google search. It'll pop up. You can actually put in your address and see if you're in a permanent no burn boundary, or if there's a burn ban lifted right now, and that's all across Cowlitz County. Right now there is currently, which is kind of weird because it's a little wet outside, but there's reasons for it. The fire marshal makes that call, and right now we are in a no burn period right now. So make sure you go to that Southwest Clean Air Agency. Tell your neighbors if there is a problem. You can certainly call us, but that's the agency that regulates that. So I just want to make that clear. A lot of people don't know that. Perfect. And what's the name of the proposition? It's Proposition 1. That's it.
Prop 1. Prop 1 is what it's called.
Proposition 1. So look on your ballot. Of course, we care which way you vote, but we can't tell you which way to vote. We just want you to vote. So you've got the information. Please, think about it and give us a call if you have any questions. One last thing that's kind of on a more fun note, and I'm going to turn this back over to Jason, and then Chief will say his final words here. Fun fact in the fire service, what is a plug ugly, and what is the history behind that?
That's a really good question. I like the history of that. Yeah, so way back, when the fire service was more driven by insurance, it was a race to get to the fire so that you get paid as an insurance company. So these insurance companies would hire the biggest, most rough-looking, muscle-bound person and put them at the hydrant to fight off all the other insurance companies. And so that is the term plug ugly. Plug being the hydrant, ugly being what the person could be described as.
They got in a lot of fights, so they may have maybe a little beat up in the face. Yeah, plug ugly.
So plug ugly.
Plug ugly. There you go. There's the fun fact in the fire service. A little history. There's a lot of history. And Chief Neves, final thoughts.
Yeah, a little humor. I like that. We're truly blessed to be here. We've got outstanding men and women serving the community here. And again, echoing, I can't tell you to vote yes or no. I just encourage you to go out and make your voices heard. And again, if you have any questions, please call us. We want to totally be transparent in all that we do, and we serve you. We serve the public. So, if there's a question that you have, that's my job, is to make sure those are answered. So please don't hesitate.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you, public, for listening to this, and we'll be doing more of these as time comes on. And thank you so much to our chaplains that are out there supporting us and supporting our community. Thank you to our police officers and our county deputies, and our dispatchers. Dispatchers don't get the credit too. They are part of this whole thing, and who you talk to on the initial call, and then we show up. Anyway, thank you guys, and thank you, public. We'll talk to you very soon. Thank you for listening.